Welcome to my world. Another day, another time, another period for knowledge acquisition. Knowledge is power, health is wealth. Today's topic has to do with wine and diuresis. You might be confused with the term diuresis, a medical word for urination, frequent urination. We know that it's a kind of problem when you start noticing that you are urinating too much. You want to complain, but there are certain conditions that makes one urinate too much. Ordinarily, one wants to use his basic knowledge, elementary knowledge of osmosis, where area of concentration you find liquid moving to dilute the area of concentration. But in this kind of situation, there is a regulatory mechanism in the body that usually corrects any anomaly so that the body continue to be in a balanced state called hemostatic states. That is, everything is as stable as it's supposed to be. A little fright will change the situation, but it will come back to normal again. And there are certain things that we take that disturb this homeostasis, and probably wine is one of them. So how does wine really disturb our homeostasis? Creating that diuresis is what I want us to study today. How do we now see wine as causing diuresis? It is a study that can be done in the laboratory. And as a medical lab scientist, I want to really expose the fundamentals in the diuresis and wine. As usual, if you like my presentation, press the like button, subscribe, and more quality production will come your way. Let us stay on to watch the slide section. The outline. Objective, introduction, type of diuresis, research findings, lab diagnosis recommendations are all I shall be talking on in this video. The objective: to expose the association of wine with diuresis, the main complication of diuresis, and also the role of medical laboratory scientists in its diagnosis. The introduction. Diuresis simply means the increased frequency of urination, which could ordinarily be understood as osmolality, the difference between plasma osmotic pressure and tubular osmotic pressure, causing the movement of water in the direction of concentration gradient. We also know that sodium is hygroscopic, and the movement of water in its area of concentration is not in doubt. But is wine hygroscopic? But we have alcoholic wine too. Are alcoholic wines that hygroscopic? I don't think so. That I have never read of. How come it is associated with diuresis? That brings about the second hypothesis, which I shall expose as the next slide. The other hypothesis talks about alcohol as a diuretic because it inhibits the release of vasopressin, a hormone that regulates water excretion. This was confirmed when the osmotic concentration of the urine decreased coincidentally to an increase in plasma osmotic pressure by giving hypertonic saline simultaneously, and it prevented the diuretic effect of the alcohol. So, in a nutshell, that means that there is a regulation taking control over the osmotic pressure, the osmolality. In summary, alcoholic wine, increases plasma osmolality. Alcoholic wine inhibits the release of vasopressin. Without vasopressin, the kidney release more water. Effects of diuresis include dehydration, because the person will be dehydrated because of frequent urination, headache, nausea, and strained kidney. You must also take note that once you are dehydrated in a way, the blood pressure would increase because sodium will be retained and more water will be absorbed. So as soon as that person stops that drinking, the reverse starts happening. Yeah, types of diuresis. We've spoken about the one that you can call osmolality diuresis, but we have other type. The rebound diuresis. During an acute kidney injury, the kidney tubule get blocked and bicellular diuresis. Once it's recovered, then there is that frequent urination. Immersion diuresis is also, as the name suggests, one induced by immersion of the body in a liquid or water is referred to, and it causes that increased diuresis. Cold-induced diuresis, also exposure to cold temperature causes that vasoconstriction, which will increase the blood pressure. Once there is a vasoconstriction, you expect the blood pressure to increase as a result. The forced diuresis. Diuresis induced by diuretic drugs is known as forced diuresis, and diuretics are widely used in the treatment of heart diseases to maintain the body fluid balance because the heart already is compromised, and giving it excessive work based on the large volume that will cause high blood pressure, which is a serious concern. So there is a need to lower the level of water in the plasma. Research findings. There are many research findings that are supportive of alcoholic wine as diuretic, and none supporting non-alcoholic wine and water as diuretic. But too much of anything will likely have a reverse effect. We must know that alcohol, generally, the liver really detoxifies it, 90% of the concentration, because it has this alcohol dehydrogenase. So very few get to the system. So the first period of alcoholic consumption is usually having no effect. But the more we drink, and the rate of gulping it is also very intoxicating. There are also other findings that is shown in this study. Another study was conducted to examine the effect of consuming a dilute alcohol solution, weak beer, on urine production in normally hydrated and hypohydrated individual. Conclusion: these results suggest that the diuretic action of alcohol is blunted when the body is hypohydrated. That is, when you have not enough water, you are already almost dehydrated. Another study concluded that only moderate amount of stronger alcoholic beverages resulted in a temporary diuretic effect compared to the non-alcoholic counterparts. So we must take note of all this. Taking the result of previous studies into account, it seems that moderate amounts of weak alcoholic beverages do not negatively influence hydration status, but when the alcoholic strength and serving size increases, so does the acute diuretic effect increase, just like I had earlier explained. Yeah, some research finding puts the problem of diuresis on the effect of the alcohol on vasopressin. So it has been found out that vasopressin, which regulates water balance and tonicity of fluid when released in response to high blood osmolarity, it's really taken care of when the alcohol suppress this vasopressin, and in that kind of state, the water will now be released, because vasopressin is supposed to regulate water, stopping water from being released from the body. but it is now being held by the alcohol, suppressed by the alcohol, which would now cause more diuresis. And then further study, in a disease state, if glucose enters the kidney tubule, it is not reabsorbed and increases the osmotic pressure in the tubule. The increase in osmotic pressure inhibits or minimizes the reabsorption of water from the tubule, increasing the urine output or diuresis. The same osmotic pressure can also be exerted by mannitol, that is, those who drink sweet wine. Majority of the sweet wine are sweetened by mannitol, alcohol in itself, sugar alcohol. Hence, mannitol is used as a diuretic agent to increase urine output in cases of fluid overload in the body. All the research findings tend to favor to the osmotic effect as well as vasopressin suppression by alcohol as the cause of diuresis. Lab diagnosis. The blood alcohol concentration is very useful to know the level of the alcohol in the blood. The volume of the urine produced, the effect of that alcohol, the diuresis. Serum osmolality will also check the concentration we're talking about. Urine osmolality as well, checking for the electrolytes, the urea, creatinine, and those things that will cause these shifts. The WHO defines acceptable level of drinking for men as 30 grams alcohol per day, and that is instructive. But we could also do other tests, radioimmunoassay, where you want to check for vasopressin. Most of these hormonal tests, you use various methods, ELISA and other things to really get their perfect results. The level of the vasopressin is also indicative of problems associated with diabetes insipidus, where the person passes urine uncontrollably. It's also indicative of it is the alcohol-induced diuresis. Finally, recommendation. Diuresis is a disturbance of the homeostatic state of the body. And you can imagine the level of disturbance it poses for the elderly who socialize with friends by drinking. I talked about the effect of loneliness. Loneliness is a serious problem, but you want to now socialize. Do you socialize by drinking nothing? Well, you have to consider your health implications as well. Water and non-alcoholic wine wouldn't cause this disturbance that much, especially if they have no cardiac problems. There's a stating giving them diuretics. It has also been proven that weak alcohol like mannitol, sweet alcoholic wine, increases renal tubule concentration, drawing water, thereby increasing diuresis. Mannitol, a sugar alcohol, is often used as a sweetener and in medicine as an osmotic diuretic. Moderation is the key. If you don't want the complications of diuresis of dehydration, because when you are urinating, you are passing out of the water, and that concentrates the blood plasma. So the sodium becomes more effective drawing out water from other sources, and that work as problem to the heart, causing hypertension, the hangover, headache, nausea, and what have you experienced. High concentration of sodium will result in high volume that put the heart to stress of pumping. Yes, experimental alternative is to stop drinking or apply hypertonic saline to stop diuresis once you start experiencing it. Life is full of stories and challenges. All we have to do is to find a ways of surmounting, because when you try to surmount one problem, another problem is created because you don't want to be lonely. Check the reference that follows.